week, Stephen Harper made a quick stop in Edmonton. Now, it's no secret I've been to a few Harper rallies along the campaign trail already this fall. They're always a really, really good time. But this Harper rally was going to be all business for me. I knew the stop wasn't going to be a long event. It was basically just like a motorcade and a quick wave from the tarmac as the Harpers boarded their campaign plane. Okay, well, that still sounds sort of exciting, but I would have been fenced up with the rest of the media because I have this great new job. And that didn't sound fun to me at all because I'm a free bird and you have to let me fly. So I decided to take my camera and my sunny disposition to go talk to the protesters that so often congregate at these things. And by protesters, I mean 5 fairly low info folks in their twilight years standing on the street corner. If you weren't paying attention, you could have mistaken their micro protests for people waiting at the bus stop along the route that takes you to bingo. But if no anti-Harper protest is too small for the CBC, well, I'll follow their lead just this once. They had all the usual signs about C-51, Aboriginal women and refugees, but they had a new one too. These people had a really, really bad case of the Trans-Pacific Partnership derangement. Bear with me, the audio is bad because I was like standing outside an airport runway, but I asked one lady to explain her opposition to the TPP. And she couldn't, so she asked her pal to talk to me. Here. I take it you oppose the TPP. Why do you oppose it?
It's an assault on Canadian sovereignty. Google, explain the TPP.
Now, I'm convinced these people have gotten all their info about the current government from Facebook memes. TPP swings the doors open to 40% of the world's economy for Canadian exporters, farmers, and manufacturers. But these protesters think it's a bad idea to have more customers for Canadian businesses. I don't know. Then the lady told me that all trade deals harm the economy and kill manufacturing. Here.
If all of these trade deals since the time of the Free Trade Agreement and NAFTA, if you compare that period of history in Canada to the whole previous period, it shows that these trade deals have actually reduced the growth of the GDP in Canada. They've been very damaging to the Canadian economy.
Now, our economy is larger than it's ever been and growing. I checked, but I carried on politely asking questions about C-51. Pay attention because this comes up later. Here.
C-51 actually is police state legislation. It permits the police to decide, the security agencies and police to decide what opinions are acceptable and which opinions are not. It's an enormous violation of people's right to conscience.
This lady's all of a sudden an advocate for conscience rights and free speech. Now, heck, that's something even I can agree with. Not that it's a concern with C-51, but I can at least appreciate the sentiment. But I did find it weird that she doesn't think a government should define terrorism. Like, if the government can't, who should? Then I met a nice man that told me Harper's a warmonger. I mean, let's just forget for a second that it was Chrétien that sent our troops to Afghanistan in the wrong uniforms, but I'll play along because I'm a good sport. This is a lot of crazy coming up. Listen.
We're for an anti-war government. The Harper government has been a war-mongering government, and we want them out. The Edmonton Coalition Against War and Racism does oppose airstrikes in Syria, just like we opposed airstrikes in the country of Libya, which is now a smoldering disaster, ruin, recruiting grounds for ISIS and ISIL. This is what bombing brings. There has to be nation-to-nation settlement of disputes that doesn't involve bombing. The United Nations would have a lot to do with it, and the big powers that are already involved, including Russia, can reach a modus vivendi of how to arrive at a diplomatic, structured solution without the loss of life.
Did you hear that? He said nation-to-nation negotiations with terrorists. Like, how does one negotiate a cap on the acceptable number of crucified Christians or how many sex slaves the caliphate can claim? And did you catch where he also says that Russia can reach a diplomatic solution on the world's behalf? Russia's bombing the daylights out of Syria right now from the Caspian Sea. Listen. Now the motorcade finally came, and when I turned, they saw my Rebel mic in my back pocket. They busted me here.
So, you know, this reporter's with Ezra Levant's organization, right? The distortions of what Ezra Levant and his media are doing are despicable. Everything all the way from the cartoon issue of a few years ago to ethical oil to every other bit of nonsense that comes forth.
Remember when I told you to pay attention before? Well, here's why. They're not so free speechy anymore. They didn't like it when I tried to point out that free speech isn't just applied to people they felt were targeted in C-51. Free speech also applies to the Western Standard when they published the cartoons of Muhammad.
I'm not gonna go there.
I'm sorry, I just find it curious because the lady mentioned C-51 and government-approved thoughts and speech, and so you have a problem with publishing a cartoon. Interesting to me.
We didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
We didn't say that we wanted it to be illegal.
I walked into that micro-protest thinking I'd be hearing about all the usual stuff. Missing and murdered Aboriginal women, the niqab maybe, Canada Post for sure, and of course the CBC. Somehow I ended up talking about Putin as a peacenik and cartoons with some people who thought I was nice, and I am nice, until they knew who my boss was. Rebel derangement is real, people. For TheRebel.Media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid.
Ow! We're building a studio. Help us out. Click here or visit buildthedream.ca.